Hey Trekkies, it's summer, and you know what that means. It's time for Creation Entertainment's Trek to Las Vegas 2025. This year, the convention has been expanded to a 5-day schedule, August 6th through the 10th at the Rio Las Vegas Hotel. Meet all your favorite Star Trek pros in one place, and hey, maybe you swing by Vic's Lounge and you see our panel. It's a great way to meet people in person and have some fun with your fellow Trekkies. If you can't make it to Star Trek Las Vegas, of course, there's also other events around the country this year. Trek to Orlando, August 23rd through 24th. There's the Trek to New Jersey, September 6th and 7th. And finally, the Trek to Chicago, November 22nd and 23rd. We're looking forward to meeting as many of you as we can this year. So make sure that you get ready to trek to Las Vegas.
Is this thing on? Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Pike Night. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with some amazing guests on stage and in the studio to discuss Episode 9 of Strange New Worlds, All Who Wander. Join us tonight as we discuss sexism in survival situations, alien races who are just trying to do their best, and then Starfleet gets involved, the value of taking off and nuking the planet from orbit, and the most important question, how did the delivery of Vidium Power Cells to Station K7 go? That was the main mission of the episode. Joining me today are my co-hosts, the man who has put in his time as part of the crew of the good ship Open Pike, now promoted to lieutenant, so everyone focus on him for a few minutes. I'm sure he'll be fine. Host of Sudden But Inevitable, Jesse.
This is Vallejo Beta 5!
And the man who knows enough to just sit his ass outside in an Arctic disaster situation, host of Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through TNG, Cameron.
I'd just like to point out, if we were recording this a day later, we'd be discussing Gorn on the 4th of July.
And today we have a special guest, a woman who, when she looks at someone, is always asking 3 questions in her head. Co-host and co-founder of the Bed Wed Behead podcast, Meg.
Hi, I don't have anything fun or clever to say. Thanks for giving me the least horny and the least funny episode of Strange New Worlds.
It is that. It is that.
First up, we have a new guest on the Open Pike Night Stage. Let's hear from Matt.
Hey, this is Platium3. Just wanted to share my thoughts on the newest episode, All Who Wander. I thought it was a wonderful episode. I thought pretty much everything about it, from the setup to the dramatic thing at the end, which I really wish wouldn't happen, but it fit really well and it was done really well. Thought it was all just really cool. It's a great piece of television. Loved it as a great piece of Star Trek. I'm loving this new series. The only little minor gripes I have about it is maybe it's not strange and new enough. I love Hemmer. I thought it was a great callback to a species we haven't seen a lot of. Think he's a great actor. Think it's a great part. And then, unfortunately, we get rid of it. And my fear is they're going to bring in Scotty. Either next week or at the beginning of next season, we're going to have Scotty. And you know what? Scotty's wonderful, but he's not strange. He's not new. I want Pike to have his own crew and his own adventures. And of course, we have Spock, we have Uhura, and they're great, but we don't need to get the whole crew together already. And it's kind of the same thing I thought with the Gorn. I think the new Gorn are awesome. I think the minor continuity things with the old slow rubber suit Gorn from TOS, whatever. It's time for new and better. But overall, another great episode. Can't wait for the season finale.
That was Matt at PletiM3 on Twitter, host of Slime Time, a Dragon Quest video game podcast, but they also do side quest episodes, and Star Trek has been heavily featured in those. Cameron, what do you think? Are they setting up Strange New Worlds for another original series cast member? And is it strange and new enough for you still?
I hadn't even considered that as being one of the reasons to off Himmer that way. I don't know. Maybe I feel like that news would have leaked if Scotty was coming in, even in season 2, but maybe not. I do feel that Himmer's swan song I feel that was a little premature. It almost feels like a case of where I wonder if something external affected him being able to continue with the show. Maybe the makeup was affecting him. Maybe he got another gig. I don't know. It feels so premature to me. I was just starting to like the character after last episode, and I feel like they kept building stuff up about him that they never paid off, like his pacifism, which they kind of pay lip service to in this episode, but don't really. It's not important to the plot at all. And it's like, well, why did we even bring that up if he wasn't going to come to loggerheads with La'an over her bloodthirsty revenge? So, yeah, I don't know. And I have thoughts on Strange and New later on, too, but I know we'll be discussing aliens in the near future of this podcast, so I'll let Jesse counter my point.
Thank you. That's all I ever want to do. And I will start by saying Hemmer's pacifism is integral to the plot of this episode. That is why he ended up taking the splash. I don't know how to phrase that. He pushed Uhura out of the way and saved her, right? He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't actively attack the creature in that moment, but he did defend the people on his ship. So his pacifism, I think, is paid more than just lip service to in this episode, personally.
I think any other character on the cast could have done that, and we wouldn't have gone like, oh, what a pacifist maneuver. People just jump in front of, acidic sperm all the time in these shows, so.
I don't know how frequently that has happened in Star Trek.
I say, notice not a single woman jumped to take that sperm in the face.
Take the facial? Nope.
Well, La'an had the right idea. She was like, look, they're going to start just blasting all of us, so we need to kill them right now. But I feel like because we've had Hemmer repeatedly say throughout the series, like, I am a pacifist, I do things the non-aggressive way. This is an indicator
2 references
of that. I think it's 3 or 4.
Yeah, I feel like this was such a great opportunity to show pacifism so much more than telling, because he's been telling us a lot that he's a pacifist. And he does say in this episode, he is like, well, I may not want to kill things or fight or anything like that, but I will do what I need to protect the people that I love. And I'm like, okay, well, first off, I knew so quick in this episode that Hemmer was going to die.
Yeah.
It was like, and it still got me. It still got me when he died and he sacrificed himself. And but it felt so much like, and this is going to sound like, as a woman, you see women die so often to further the plot points of male characters. And I was like, well, it's refreshing. At least a man died to push forward Uhura's storyline.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what it felt like. A little bit. I agree with Cameron in that I don't think we got enough time with Hemmer to really feel that sacrifice that he made, and it bummed me out a little bit because I am a slut for angst. If you're gonna kill people, please make it hurt for me. Like,
right.
Well, yeah, we're 9 episodes in. Not even Joss Whedon, who is known for butchering beloved characters, killed a character off in 9 episodes. Lost didn't kill a character off in 9 episodes.
And to do it along with 2 other characters that we literally just met. And of course, that was going to happen. Like, oh, let's meet this person. They're going to die. Like,
are we going to talk about how the crew gives 0 fucks about the 2 other people who died this episode? Uhura spent more time with Chia than she did with Hemmer, being the other cadet.
Well,
I feel like Spock had some feelings before they were overshadowed by Hemmer dying. Like, Spock was like, I'm mad that Duke
He was the only person who cared that Duke died. No one else.
Well,
hey. And Benga and Pike are off making jokes in the next episode.
Like 8 topics.
It's okay. It's okay.
Kirk cared when he gave him a chance to call Spock names in a robot.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So I was going to say, before we get all the way into every topic of this episode, Meg, if you don't mind, please explain to the audience how it is that you come to Star Trek. What is your relationship with Star Trek? How steeped are you in Star Trek? What is your favorite Star Trek series? What's your experience, etc.? You have the floor.
This is amazing. I'm glad I got a chance to maybe endear myself to people before I talk that I have 0 connection to Star Trek. My dad was a big Trekkie, and he also gets annoyed with me when I call him a Trekkie, so I feel like he's the quintessential Trekkie. He's like, it's not a Trekkie thing. I'm not a fanboy. I'm like, sure you're not. You emailed me what TOS episodes I have to watch before I can watch anything else. But sure.
Wow.
The only movie that I really remember watching like a lot of, and I don't even know the name of it, I just remembered as the whale one. And I'm told
yes.
that's the fourth movie.
That's the name of it, actually, is
the
the whale.
The whale one.
Because The Voyage Home is a really dumb name for a
Well,
movie.
it's just very generic, and it
It's
doesn't
super
really
generic.
That's
indicate
right.
what's going
It was
on.
like they were, and I don't remember it clearly, but they were like cargo shipping whales back to Earth or something, right? And but that had a huge impression on me. It made me want to be a marine biologist for a bit. Otherwise, I don't have much of a connection to it. So you're gonna I'm gonna apologize up front. You're gonna get zero nostalgia from me about things that are going on, but I want to preface by saying I'm not trying to be like a jerk about things. If I say something sucks that's really special to somebody, that's not a reflection.
Is episode 9 of Strange New Worlds, All Those Who Wander, is that the only episode of Star Trek you've seen?
No, I've watched all of Strange New Worlds, and I'm actually very
cool.
much enjoying this. I've
Very
seen a couple episodes here and there of The Next Generation, and I've seen the Chris Pine movies.
We actually had an instance on Twitter at Open Pike this week where we had somebody say, I'm not a Star Trek fan, but I'm really, really liking this show, and I've been caught up now. So, and also I believe that's a new caller there on our first segment, so that's very cool. Like, new fans, new callers, everything is new. We've got a new guest this week. We're very happy to have you here with us, Meg. And I assure you, there are people out there listening that are going, oh, wow, they got a normal person on as their guest this time. That's great.
My apologies to all of our previous guest hosts for Jesse's comments.
No, I'm the best. It's okay.
And with that, let's go ahead and invite our second guest up on stage.
Hello, it is Danielle, the heretical Sayadina again. Well, that was certainly an episode. I have many emotions about what happened and many concerns about future story decisions. However, I'd like to say a few words about the Gorn. I've heard many dissenting opinions on how the Gorn are being portrayed in Strange New Worlds, and I think they have many good points, but what if we thought of the Gorn as a metaphor rather than just a species? Utilizing some sci-fi horror, what does this kind of story tell us but that the unknown isn't safe? Was that not Q's point to Picard when he said, if you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed. It's not safe out here. It's wondrous with treasures to satiate desires both subtle and gross, but it's not for the timid. Yet it is in facing that darkness that lies without that our Enterprise crew can also face the darkness that lies within. La'an is growing, but we have clearly seen the insatiable wrath she harbors for the Gorn, and the equanimous Spock was even shaken up this episode, allowing his primal emotions out, terrifying him more than the monsters themselves. Only we have Hemmer who faces the horror of the black and does not shrink away. Instead, he embraces it, smiles in the face of it, even encouraging Uhura to open herself up in that moment and to not fear. I love that imagery of how Hemmer and Einar is a person born of the wind, snow, and ice, and that is precisely the environment the Gorn shuns. Hemmer steps out into the torrent, and it is because of his very nature that he is untouched. He has overcome the darkness has not overcome him. So sometimes it is by facing the monsters, facing our fears, that our true nature is revealed, and to know ourselves fully in that moment, as confident as Hemmer knew his own body and soul, that takes so much courage. Perhaps that is what the Gorn can teach us.
They sent us to meet aliens, and this time they did send a poet. That was Danielle calling back in at Sayadina Heresy on Twitter. Thank you very much, Danielle. I'm just going to ask, will Strange New Worlds ever be okay with prioritizing the needs of the few over the needs of the many? I mean, ever. I joked about this last time, but here we are again, kind of asking the same question.
Mbenga did it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have a point about that with Mbenga, but let's, Meg, what did you think? What did you think about the Gorn?
They were scary. Like, this was a scary episode for me. I'm a giant weenie. It was a scary episode for me. I have never seen Alien because it's scary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a weenie. I can't believe this is the episode I'm coming on for. I had to pause so many times. But they weren't evil. to me, it was, they were following their nature, and to us, their nature is evil because it's what's affecting us and it's what's killing us, quote unquote. But we talk, like, for me, the way they were built up was a lot like Reavers in a lot of ways, of these horrors and terrors. And what made Reavers so scary from Firefly was that they were us, tormented and turned into monsters. And for me, that's just a lot scarier than creatures kind of following their nature. I mean, It was scary to watch. It was scary, like, the jump scares and stuff in there were for me, but them as monsters were not like these big bads. And I guess that a lot of that is just La'an being a child when this happened to her.
I went back immediately after this episode and watched Memento Mori again. And if you have a chance to do that, I highly recommend it, because it's almost like Memento Mori is like All Those Who Wonder Part 1. Like the consistency in the performances for La'an and the captain and Spock, and just like the tension building and the themes in both episodes are very similar.
That's what sets up a her and Himmer even.
Right, exactly. Yep. It was the last time we had that instance of them. Now, I think part of it, to Meg's point, is supposed to be that La'an is a little bit of an unreliable narrator, because all that she knows of this other species is that they massacred everyone she loves, right? But Meg, I really appreciate you coming at this from a very fresh perspective with, like, no agenda at all. That's what I mean when I say we've got a normal person in your chair.
I do want to just say, Jesse, you called it. Hamura, you are absolutely spot on. That is now canon. And congratulations on that. And also, what did M'Benga spend a lot of time in this first season doing? Did he have somebody who had a rapidly progressing illness suspended in the buffer of the transporter? Was there maybe a way he could have done that? I don't know, on the starship that Hammerhead powered up? Just saying.
Maybe. We don't know what the transporters were like on the Peregrine.
No, I'm calling it's like, come on. We literally had a solution to this problem.
He tried to tell them that, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, Spock and La'an are like, nope, let him die. Do it. And everyone else is like, no!
I was almost waiting for La'an to just, like, bullseye him as he was standing there at the
just
edge.
give him a little nudge off the ledge.
I honestly, I was like, oh, La'an is here because she knows she's the only one that can shoot him. Like, she's going to shoot him.
I feel like it would have been kind of impossible for her to come back from that.
Yeah.
As a character for the audience, if she just point blank executed in front
of
the
mini bitches,
in front of everybody else, just bam.
Jesus
Meg,
Christ.
I was emotionally unraveled at the end of this episode, okay? I didn't know what to expect by then. Like, I do have to say, if you're watching Strange New Worlds, please always, 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 always skip the recap at the start of the episode, because it will telegraph the entire plot to you.
I mean, I always do anyway. I watched it the second time I watched this episode, and they did not need the bit about, like, our end will come when we fix what's broke. Well, I mean, the very first line of the recap tells you that Himmer's going to die. I was so glad I skipped it.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Spock and La'an at the end, I was wondering why I bumped a little bit when Spock didn't return the Vulcan salute and say live long and prosper, and then I realized how insensitive it would be to say that to someone who's about to walk off a cliff.
Live long
and
peace and damn it, yeah. Good job.
Deuces.
To Meg's point about the monsters of the Gorn, I mean, one, we should point out that they spend this entire episode hunting babies. They are hunting down and killing babies who we know Gorn are much more civilized later. But I mean, that is the babies isn't what I like about
babies
the Gorn.
are monsters.
But I like that. What's fun about aliens, what's fun about the Gorn in this episode is that they are that unstoppable killing machine that you cannot reason with. My problem with them, though, is as monsters, they did feel a little overpowered. It was just like everything was like, this tiny baby can drag off a grown-ass man. Let's ignore physics and leverage and mass. And we can't detect them with anything. We'll talk about how they were so certain there were no Gorn left on the ship when they towed it off the planet back to Federation space, guys.
Yeah.
But,
and 0% suspicious of the only two living things that they could find.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oriana, don't trust a fucking word she says. She left them all to die.
Yeah.
The second she ran away when Blue Guy started panting, and she could have worn that. I understand she's a little girl and traumatized, but still, she left two people we love and care about. Okay, one lady we didn't know, but Chapel we love and care about.
And then that other chick.
She left her to die.
Okay,
so, Oriana, you're on my shit list.
And we know that the medical quarantine field is working. So, which, by the way, I love that shot. And how cool is Chapel to just be like, oh, I should just go to the medical quarantine field.
Yeah.
Which we've seen on other series, and I was just like, God, she's so smart and cool. But we know that's working. Like, go in there, put those two people in there, and leave them there. Like,
yeah.
Let's hear from our next guest on the Open Pike Night Stage.
Hey guys, this is Tim from the FSF Podcast. So, episode 9, wow. I found myself saying that a lot this episode. Wow. Just wow. This had the intensity that I was hoping for in a sci-fi series and things. Coming from outside sci-fi, not having really ever been a Star Trek fan prior to this. But to me, this episode was like Alien versus Predator versus Star Trek. There was a little bit of horror, there was a little bit of drama, there was anticipation, there was all these things that kept me on the edge of my seat, making me want to pay attention, making me want to watch. And seeing their version, Strange New Worlds version of the Gorn versus, I think the only other time maybe that the Gorn have appeared was in Star Trek with Captain Kirk. I don't know. Again, I'm still learning my way around the fandom, but I very much enjoyed this episode. I like the arc that we saw with Uhura and her coming to full realization of who and what she is. I don't like the fact that they killed off Hemmer. I was hoping that maybe he would be able to stick around, but the swan dive off the edge of the ship said no. So all in all, great episode, and I'm really glad to be watching this show, and kind of sad that the season finale is coming. So again, Tim from the FSF Podcast, thanks a bunch, and you can find us on Twitter at FSF Podcast.
So we've talked about it a little bit, but Strange New Worlds as an intro to Star Trek, as the first thing somebody watches in Star Trek. How are we feeling about this first season as grabbing somebody and saying there's a bigger universe of this out there? Do you think this is going to get a lot of people to go back and watch some other shows?
Yeah, I think what was so smart about doing Strange New Worlds as far as attracting guests is have this be with Pike, because even like I've seen the movies and stuff like that, and so I get some of the references just from the movies. But I love that because Captain Kirk and Spock and TOS is so major as a cultural thing. It's a zeitgeist. It can be really, really overwhelming as someone who's maybe interested in watching Star Trek to look at all of the iterations of Star Trek and not being able to figure out a good on-ramp. I kind of liken it a little bit to Doctor Who. I'm a huge Whovian, but and I've talked to a lot of people like, well, I want to watch Doctor Who, but do I have to go all the way back to classic Doctor Who, or where in the new Who can I come in there? So I liken it to that as being just that overwhelming. So I think this does a really good job of giving you some characters that you'd be familiar with, like Spock and Uhura. The name Kirk is there a little bit, but also giving you this other cast where you don't have to know everything that goes on in the Star Trek universe in order to watch it and enjoy it.
I would say let's do Cameron next, because Cameron, this has got to be the first time that you're experiencing a Trek as it happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is the difference in community from covering a 30-year-old show, as beloved as TNG is, and a show that is currently airing is just night and day. Yeah, people are so excited to eat this up, to discuss it. It's super fun. And yeah, I think Strange New Worlds is definitely a great jumping off point. I've mentioned in the past how I loved TOS and the movies, the original crew, but it was the 2009, the Kelvin movies that made me go like, maybe I should dive more. Maybe I should go back and revisit TNG and finally give it a chance. So I think like these new kind of more modern sensibility type shows are great ways to suck people in. And then there's enough references for them to go like, maybe I will watch this older 30-year-old show. And if you do, please listen to Green Shirt and Newbies Trek Through the Next Generation while you do.
Highly recommend. I think that, okay, so let me frame this thusly. I really like that in this episode we have a moment where They go, this ship is not a Constitution class, but it totally looks exactly like a Constitution class, and it uses all the same parts. And it's like, why? Why did you do that? And the answer is to get people to go, why did they do that? Right? Like, it's to get people wound up and going, well, what was the point there? I honestly think the reason they did that was to get people to talk about it. This is new sci-fi, which is old sci-fi dressed up to look gorgeous, right? And I think that's what is pulling people in, is because they're going, oh, this is really accessible, because it's not overly thinky, and it's not, up its own ass about a story arc that's going to take a season and a half. And I'm not saying that that's bad TV. I'm just saying that it's more accessible TV to come into an episodic TV show, right?
As a Battlestar Galactica fan, I'm feeling very called out right now.
Well, but it's, there was a lot of discussion about we want episodic. The most recent Trek has been very non-episodic, has been very serialized, and we got what we wanted. They didn't quite scrape off all the 2010 2020s polish on the 1960s version of this, because good God, they left the grittiness on there. Like, this is a dark first season of a TV show of I'm not saying they promised us a lighthearted 60s style Trek, but it's like, God damn.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I think in the 60s, a lot of TOS would be considered pretty, at least challenging, if not dark or gritty. It was as about as dark and gritty as they were going to get away with in 60s television.
Yes.
And I do think it is a good intro to Star Trek. I think it's watchable without you having to text somebody and say, hey, who's this? Or, hey, what's going on? And I think really that is today probably the biggest thing you could go for is like, can somebody just watch this alone and then walk away and not have to worry about whatever questions they might have? I
will say I've had to ask my husband for reference clarification more listening to you guys talk about this show than I've had, because my husband's a Trek fan also. So I'm like, I'm surrounded, and I'm just this little island of stubbornness.
I mean, we want new listeners and new viewers to be coming in. So when it comes to the point of the Peregrine and the redress and the Constitution reference, oh my God, it doesn't matter, people. I don't really like to turn on the audience a whole lot, but it happens in comedy clubs sometimes. You people,
so this is thematically correct,
are focusing on the least important part of this episode.
I didn't even know. If I'm not going, I didn't even notice that it
happened. All right, let's hear from our next guest on stage.
Joel from Seldon Crisis here. Some of the excellent comments here, along with the rewatch of Episode 8, The Elysian Kingdom, made me rethink it considerably. I now think it was quite well conceived and acted and stands up as one of the most creative episodes. This week's, though, is back to my comfort zone, returning to dark and intense, high-stakes and thrilling sci-fi. The main plot was a little derivative of Alien, to be sure, but it was so well executed that I bought the sense of horror and doom pretty thoroughly, and had some of the most intense and powerful character moments in the story to this point. La'an's rage was palpable and effective, Chapel's terror, Pike's calm leadership, and Sam Kirk's extreme annoyance with Spock's lack of visible emotion was highly reminiscent of McCoy in the original series. Best of all to me, though, was Spock's rage moments, first in fighting the Gorn directly, but even more so in his funeral freakout. That manic stare when he realized he'd unleashed emotion that was too strong to control was wicked. I also loved the general ambience of the planet. I could feel the cold, especially when Hemmer sacrificed himself to it. I grieve for a fine character and forgive in advance whatever nonsensical storyline it takes to bring him back.
That was Joel from the Seldon Crisis podcast at Seldon Crisis Pod on Twitter. Thank you very much, Joel. It's good to hear when somebody hears from the community on Open Pike Night and then goes back and actually is able to re-examine something they didn't enjoy the first time. So I'm glad Elysian Kingdom is more meaningful to you now than it was on first watch. So there were homages to other movies all over this episode, and it's definitely one of the main things people have been talking about. I think, Jesse, like you said, we should just make a list. I'm going to go with my list. People like to say Alien. They like to say Predator. I've heard The Thing. I think it was Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Predator, and The Thing all rolled into one.
Oh, I just add in some Jurassic Park. There was definitely some Velociraptor-like noises and even appearance of the Gorn, to the point where I was like, oh, are they going to hide in a kitchen and then trick one and lock it in the ice freezer?
Yes. Some of the references were like blatant and in your face, a la Alien and Jurassic Park and Predator with all the different visions. And then others were a little more subtle. Pike essentially says, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yes, I was waiting for it the whole time.
I was so jacked because he said that to Kirk, and I was like, yeah, we can. And he was, even that was casual. He was like, come on, you saw that I hurt one of them. It's fine.
That was right after Duke died, too. He is so casual in that scene.
Yeah.
He's too casual.
Okay, so there was one of my favorite moments of the episode is when they're watching the captain's log or listening to the captain's log. She says something along the lines of like, if I could talk to you now, I'd say, don't come.
Yeah.
It is death. Don't come, or something. One, that was just great stakes. I was like, okay, I am into this episode now.
Yeah.
Two, that sound, it's on the tip of my brain. What movie is it where like someone gives a warning?
I think I had huge Serenity vibes off that when they
Same.
went to the shuttle and she's discussing what happened to like how the Pax turned people hostile. Because
Maybe it was that.
Sarah Paulson just gets torn apart in that recording. And I was like, oh, Sarah Paulson is really good at screaming because this is horrifying without showing me a single thing.
Maybe it was that. Okay.
I kind of wish that we had a grainy video, but audio only is so scary and like thematically appropriate for a podcast.
Well, and all the actors' faces are selling the moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I'd say that the performances actually sell everything in this because so much of it is telegraphed from so far away. Like the first thing Uhura says to Hemmer when they're in engineering is, I'm going to miss you, Hemmer. And he's like, nah, you're going to stay in Starfleet. It'll be fine. But like having watched the episode, I'm like, ugh, the foreshadowing. It's so heavy, but it's like everything works.
That's literally when I
because-
realized, oh, Hemmer's dying.
Right. So they're,
Good call.
but everything is,
I didn't. It took me forever to realize that was.
I mean, I was there as soon as he got hit with the acid. I was like, he's gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that's-
yeah, we know that the deadliest thing to Enterprise crew members is goo touching them on their face. This is literally now empirically one of the biggest causes of death to Enterprise crew members. So.
It is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just,
Not a Tasha reference.
Yes, it is a Tasha reference.
so that's the other thing I was going to say. All of the callers and some of the reaction online that I've seen on Twitter at Open Pike, go follow us there, is I'm so mad at the show now. I was totally on board and I love it, but now they killed Hemmer and I'm so mad. It's like, that is a good thing. It's good that you were attached to that character and that his death affected you. That is a good sign. Like
That's 100% Jesse. Like on your show, when Josh was so angry about Wash dying, I was like,
Oh,
good.
God.
That means it was good. It was effective.
Yeah.
That's how you want a character death to feel. My problem was I was like, oh, Himmer's dying. This is weird.
it was
Like,
weird.
I really didn't care. I didn't care. I'm sorry. You know, I mean, who among us was waiting for the Himmer to fall? Anyone?
Oh, God.
Any of us?
Was that the one you've been really waiting for?
Yep.
That was
Yeah,
it.
he was.
Well-
That was it.
Well
John,
done.
put a Queen soundtrack behind that. That was glorious.
I can get people being like really, really upset about Hemmer dying. Davey Perez wrote this episode, and I'm very familiar with Davey Perez. He wrote a lot of Supernatural. He wrote some of my favorite heartbreaking, like, they're my favorite because they're so soul crushing. Because that's what I like. Which is why it kind of it broke my heart a little bit that I wasn't more emotionally invested in Hemmer dying. I was much more emotionally invested, and maybe that's just for me as a viewer of who I'm invested in the show more. I was more invested in Spock's fear about his rage and his feelings and stuff like that.
Yes.
That to me was character-wise the most heartbreaking. Hemmer dying was really, really sad. It was also very in character. Of course, Hemmer was going to sacrifice himself.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he was. He's the man who won't even use his telepathy because it's a form of violence against other people. So of course he would never, and he would never put La'an. We joked about La'an just putting one between between his eyes. He would never put her in that position. That's just who he was as a character. I just wish that we had been given more time with him before he died, so that we could really have that emotional investment. But again, I was just horny for Spock.
I think Spock's whole arc in this episode was done really well.
Yeah.
I do want to say I think Himmer's death was very beautifully done and poetic. And I mean, the actual way it happened was done well. Let's not forget, he's the character we've spent the most screen time with this entire show. Like, he's been off 3 episodes or so. So like, when a character dies, you want them to have completed some sort of character arc. And even we talked about the previously on saying like, it's our time to end when we've completed our purpose, and my purpose is to fix what's broken. It's said multiple times in this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did he though? Like, is helping Uhura figure out what she wants to do with her life fixing what's broken? Of all the characters on the Enterprise, I kind of love that Uhura's is the most low stakes. She's just like, she doesn't know what to do with her life right now. And he kind of gave her a nudge in one direction. Is that fixing what's broken?
I kind of think a little bit you could see that. I think him talking about her, not just like her wanting to stay with Starfleet or anything like that, but giving her, like, she saw him as a parental figure, obviously, but giving her that permission to open herself up to relationships again and to open herself up to being hurt, and wanting her to continue doing that, even though he knows what he's about to do is going to crush her all over again. I think that is kind of fixing what's broken, because we know what happens with Uhura. Like,
but I guess we haven't seen that be broken up to now. It's just, as you've said, it's been a lot of telling, not showing.
With Uhura?
With Uhura. She tells us she's
not dead. There's more. We get to see more of her.
Right.
But strictly from what Hemmer is talking, but I think it would have been, for me, much more devastating if like Chapel had been the one to get infected and die.
Sure.
And I'm glad you brought up Chapel. I kind of thought Chapel was going to end up being the Ripley of this episode, and I was really looking forward to that. And I don't know that we can say whether there was fully a defined Ripley of the episode or not.
No, not
Chapel
really.
on Spock, I think I'll share that. A lot of people say it in their calls coming up. I thought the Gorn looked like shit. Honestly, I was not impressed with the visual. The practical effects were great, but as soon as they got to CGI, I was like, man, this is...
What screen did you watch it on? Because I thought
I
looked
watched
great.
it on a big 4K screen, and I was not impressed with the effects. But then I was like, well, maybe that's actually the point. Maybe they're not supposed to be, the most polished, because this is supposed to kind of be like, well, hey, remember the last time we saw the Gorn? It was a guy in a rubber suit. So
the bar was pretty low.
The bar was pretty low.
That.
Yeah. But I think part of it is, after our discussion of like, oh, these are the Gorn that build ships. I'm like, are they? How? Now I'm just asking myself, how do they get from this to literally building interstellar spacecraft and being able to organize enough of a society that's the case? So,
well, again, these are 12 hours old.
Exactly.
And we see that they grow very fast when they have a Duke to eat.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed in seeing them, not because I thought they looked bad or anything like that, but it was so much scarier when you couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Or if you just saw that little flash, like when they came and got Duke, or when they first burst out. Like that was really scary to me. But then when you see him, like, I'm gonna look behind this wall, look from beside this wall, and I'm like, okay. Or I don't know.
I thought for sure that Spock was gonna say they're in the walls. I was like, he's looking at the wall. He knows they're in there. He's gonna say it, but he didn't.
Yeah,
say
but Kirk was the Hudson of this episode.
Oh man,
you're coming through the fucking walls, man. That's what you should have said.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to talk. Joel brought up Kirk. So one of the references I saw was Star Trek 2009. I mean, Sam Kirk pulls an almost exact James T. Kirk on Spock, like trying to rile him up. I mean, James was doing it purposefully, and Sam's just losing his shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that was something I noticed. And then, so I did, like, I feel this episode had a lot of setups without payoffs and payoffs without setups. I love seeing Sam Kirk again, of course. Yay, more Kirk. Pike specifically says he's a lot tougher than he looks. Great. Let's see him be tough later on in the episode then. He just nothing happens to him. Nothing else happens to him. I did want to kind of see Spock like just go total I mean, he has a Stallone scream, doesn't he? And
oh man.
I did kind of want to see him like go into a room with a Gorn and then just come out like dripping in blood and like carrying the two halves or something. That would have been fun. But I do want to ask, so, I mean, we talked about all the references. Where do you guys fall? Like, was it too heavy-handed, or was it just homage-y enough? Where are we at on that?
I personally ate it up. I really enjoyed myself all the way through. I was, like, picking movies out as they were flying past, right? Like, oh, that's
Mhm.
kind of Predator. Oh, that's kind of Thing. You know, like, oh, it's and like you said, there's Jurassic Park. There's so much genre going on in this episode, and I guess the last Gorn episode we had a lot of genre too. So maybe
Yeah.
all of our
Mhm.
genre heavy episodes are going to be Gorn like that, and I could super dig that. I didn't have a moment where I was like, this is too many references or it's too thick with whatever, right? Because this isn't even, to that point, this isn't even the first time that Star Trek does movie X in this genre this season. Like, we've seen
Mhm.
every other Star Trek series do it, right? And
Oh,
I
yeah.
personally, I'm generally a fan of those episodes. The Die Hard episodes in particular are ones that I really like. This one is definitely, you know, the Alien or / the Thing, whatever movie,
Sure.
the sci-fi horror movie. And
Sure.
I was happy all the way through. I actually really liked the look of the Gorn. I think that they did a good job of keeping them in shadow long enough and then giving us one shot of them like screaming in the light and then just going back to kind of mostly being a shadow monster.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Memento Mori, I called it infested with Gorn eggs. Totally. I thought they were going to pull in aliens in that episode, but nope, they waited for this episode. To Joel's point with like this one, if you're going to steal from the best.
Mhm.
And if you're going to steal from the best, better pull it off pretty good. And I do feel this episode pulled it off pretty good. I did not hate it at all. But I'm kind of on the fence with the alien connections, and I think I'm falling like they hit it a little hard. As soon as I saw the little girl, even before we had a chest burster scene, I was like, oh, that's Newt from Aliens. And
Yeah.
then that would just put me in Aliens mode. And then we had a legit, like almost shot for shot chest burster scene. And I think that was where it got a little heavy handed for me. Like, great. I have been asking for an Aliens in Star Trek episode, Aliens the movie, not just blue creatures, since
well,
season
you
3
got
of
it.
TNG. Yes, right. Since season 3, so I can't complain. But yeah, I was like, either get rid of the Newt or the chest burster scene. I think one of those things just tipped it over the edge for me personally.
For example, Meg hasn't seen Alien though. Like, she probably knows about the chest burster like via the zeitgeist, right? But like,
I haven't seen Alien, and I thought throughout the whole thing a lot of times, wow, this is just like Alien.
right.
And I haven't seen it. So I
Yeah.
feel like if you're going to talk about whether or not some of the references were a little heavy-handed, the fact that someone who's never even seen the movie
Mhm.
has been like, you know what, this is a lot like Alien. I didn't think
Yeah.
Newt when I saw the little girl, but there was a lot of those same beats, and it wasn't just the chest bursting scene.
And if you think adding in Predator vision is going to water down me thinking Aliens, I'm sorry. That hasn't been true for the past 20 years.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And,
Well, that's just monster vision, right? Like,
Exactly, yeah.
all monsters have weird vision now. Like, it's just that the Gorn can apparently switch between some filters, or it
Are you
feels like
calling
that.
Geordi a monster, Jesse?
Oh,
Yes.
Oh.
man. All right, let's hear from our next guest on the Open Pike Night Stage.
OMG, is anybody else excited to see La'an finally fight her white whale? So, in this episode, I'm so excited to see that the Gorn finally got their asses handed to them. They seem like terrible people, if people-ish, sort of people. Anywho, so I think my favorite moment of this whole situation was when the doctor admitted that he had he was having psychological issues, or he was like projecting and seeing his daughter Rukia and the girl Oriana. Oh my god, Lon kicked so much ass, and why did they do that to Hemmer? Oh my god, that was so terrible. I cried my eyes out, especially like Uhura's reaction just like destroyed my heart. Was anybody else intensely bothered by Hemmer? Not by Hemmer, by the death of Hemmer.
All right, that was Julene from the It Goes Down in the PM podcast. It Go Down in the PM on Twitter and part of the Mom Is Always Right media network. Let's talk about Hemmer was it a good choice to kill him off
Okay,
at all?
I'm really glad that you asked this point blank, because as we have mentioned several times on Open Pike Night, your favorite Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast, is this show is pulling all the best parts from all the best Treks, right?
Yep.
What happened in season 1 of TNG, which is widely agreed to be the single best Trek series ever? We lost a main bridge crew member in a semi-senseless way in Tasha Yar, right?
Yeah.
So to me, this is them going, okay, let's kill a main cast member in the first season, but let's let them be sort of the anti-Yar, right? Like, let's let this person choose how they're going out. Let's have it be a noble sacrifice. Let's have it mean something to the rest of the crew in a lasting way, such that, like, oh, now Uhura is going to stay on the Enterprise where we all know that she belongs, right? Like,
So, Jesse, but John asked you point blank, so let's get a point blank answer, because I agree almost 100% with everything you just said, but I think our answers might differ.
it's
Was
possible.
killing off him or a good idea?
So I went into this season thinking we're not getting all these characters out of it, right? Like,
You
there's
can't just say yes
Yeah,
or no.
Just say it.
I
Yes or
know.
no. Was it a good idea to kill
Point
Emmer?
blank.
point blank. Yes, I am fine with it. I liked Hemmer's arc. I'm just trying to say, like, I went into it sort of expecting somebody to die, and at some point I went, it's got to be him, right? And I'm fine with that. Yes is the short answer, Meg.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I thought of Tasha a lot too. I thought both deaths were kind of a little bit random. At least Himmer gets to choose his way and everything, and it was much more poetic than just getting slapped by a giant trash bag. But I mean, I didn't really care about either death. What hit me most with both of them was the funeral scene. That's what made both deaths work for me. Celia Gooding's performance, so good. I mean,
Yeah.
great job from her on that. Also, what both deaths do is it does add stakes to the show. Like, whether that was the intention or not, now we're like, oh shit, who's safe? Problem with Strange New Worlds. We know that 80% of the crew is safe.
Yep.
We know what happens to most of them. The only there's two people with fates we don't know. One of them is Ortegas, and if anyone fucking touches
Yeah.
a hair on Ortegas' hand,
Yeah.
Open Pike Night is coming for them.
We riot.
And La'an is leaving the show now for some undetermined amount of time, but she'll be back, I'm sure. Yeah.
So do you agree then? You think you do like the Hemmer arc, or you do not like the Hemmer arc?
I don't.
You think so?
The other thing season 1 of TNG had was a lot more episodes. Like I was saying earlier, I just don't think 9, and he wasn't in 4 of them, were enough to make me care as much about him as I think I even did about Tasha, who was a much less well-written character.
On a show where everybody is safe, it's really hard to get invested. Like, for me watching the show, I was not like, oh no, something's gonna happen to Spock. Oh no, Uhura's like, that was, for me, I was like, okay, well, they're gonna be fine. I know they're gonna be fine. So you have to have characters on there that can die. You have to have stakes on there. And I guess me coming from, and as someone who is a Supernatural fan, where they ended up dying so many times it just didn't mean anything anymore. I feel like La'an dying would have been so much more tragic and would have made me so much more angry, because if she got killed by a Gorn after surviving and finally, I mean, narratively, it would have been a really interesting kind of full circle moment as she's just finally like getting help and seeing a therapist and stuff like that, only to be snuffed out again. But if she was doing it, saving all of her crew, that would have been really, really heartbreaking, but I think it would have been so much more powerful than Hemmer, just because we didn't get as much time with Hemmer. We don't get as much of his backstory. And like I said, I'm here for all of the pain and the anger and the sadness. So I wish he hadn't died quite yet. I wanted to be more invested. If you're gonna kill a character, if you're gonna kill a main character, a main bridge character, I want to care more about that character. Make it count.
Yeah, I agree. We've talked about how season 1 of Strange New Worlds is kind of on fast forward because it is only 10 episodes. And for the most part, I think we've been okay with some of that. But I think this is an instance where it was a little too fast.
I do want to say that the character stories and the character beats and stuff like that, which is what I really watch shows for, that's why my whole podcast is about characters and not about actual television shows. The character work was done very, very well. Hemmer's the rest of the crew's reaction to Hemmer dying that's what got me. If it had to happen, now that I'm glad it was Hemmer because of the ripple effect it had on the rest of the crew.
Thank you.
They set him up from the beginning to eventually make some kind of sacrifice. It should have happened in season 2 sometime. And to Julian's point about getting to see La'an finally actually face to face with the Gorn, with like we've been building up to. I'm glad she, you know, I'm okay with her getting sort of the rage moment of smashing the frozen Gorn. I almost would have preferred if she like had hopped out of the thing, looked at it and been like, that's it. That's it. That is what I was running from that is what I've been afraid of and has been haunting my dreams. And then
that's going to put her right back into therapy.
yeah. Well, but I mean, I still would have liked to see her smash it no matter what. But, well, no, just more
but
like...
she also knows what an adult Gorn looks like.
Yeah.
Speaking of...
A juvenile Gorn just showed up behind camera.
Terrified.
It was scary, yeah.
Wow. Ninja skills my daughter has.
Is it possible that this is not quite as large an ensemble as we thought it was, and Hemmer was actually more of a side character, right?
He was a guest. I mean, he was credited as a guest star.
Yeah.
Chris.
So,
right, yeah, he's kind of a...
Yeah, I mean, like, it's he wasn't on the bridge, you know? I mean, yes, he was in engineering. That is huge and that is important. But he wasn't on the bridge, as they say, right? So
yeah, but the engineer has been so important in Star Trek from the beginning of Star Trek.
Right.
Like, to be fair, they didn't have a chief engineer at the beginning of TOS. They didn't have a chief engineer at the beginning of TNG.
Correct.
It wasn't something that was established.
Argyle would like to have a word, John T. Bowles.
He was not in the first episode.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, engineers they're very critical roles in a lot of Trek shows, but at the beginning of those, you know, for such iconic engineers, like, yeah, they weren't actually around a lot at the start of each one. So I guess I should have been surprised that Hemmer wasn't around that much. I do hope his death stays permanent. I wouldn't mind if there was some sort of lasting consequence or continuing consequence of that death, and the fact that there are still potentially stasis in body Gorn on that planet. I don't know why they towed the ship back. Just blow the goddamn ship up.
Hey, how did they get the ship?
Parts.
Can the Enterprise beam an object from a planet up with their tractor beam?
It's a tractor beam, yeah. And
from a planet?
Supposedly,
From orbit?
okay. I saw this on Twitter. I have no frame of reference for claiming that it is true.
Just a big bungee cord.
Somebody said that there's a big bungee cord. No, I'm kidding. Somebody said that the only difference between the Sombra class Peregrine and the Constitution class Enterprise is that the Sombra class can land. And somebody put, again, it was on Twitter. I don't know that it's been verified, but we have seen starships with landing capabilities before. It's just a weird and usually dumb looking capability. So I'm glad that they just went, no, let's just, pull it with the tractor beam. They don't need to see that part.
Yeah, that's fine. And maybe they had enough energy to fly it up, even with the broken nacelle.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's very confusing what happened with the previous Gorn and crew. Like, I'm confused by what's happening. All we get is Oriana's very questionable narrator response that they were gone and they were lured outside somehow.
Yeah,
I still think there's adult Gorn on that ship hiding.
I'm pretty sure they mostly come out at night. So mostly. Yeah.
The away team, or I guess our away team, found most of the crew dead in a pile outside. They were like, oh, yeah, there really was but if they were able to lure
but the Gorn hate the cold,
there,
so they were still okay fighting and killing, and then probably went back to the ship.
It's a mysteriously terrifying thing, Cameron. You don't know, and that's what makes it scary. That's what makes it scary.
And what we don't usually know also is what Michelle is going to reference when she calls in.
Wow. Don't like that. What did I just watch? Like Spock, I don't know what my emotions are doing to me, and I am screaming into the void. So anyway, R.I.P. Hemmer. I just said last week he was starting to grow on me. So thanks, Strange New Worlds, for that one. Those creatures were the ickiest and scariest thing I've seen since those earworms in The Wrath of Khan, which also, Hemmer's goodbye Did Spock steal that from Hemmer now? Is that now canon? Interesting. Now, I didn't hate this episode, and I appreciated Uhura's journey, but, I hope this isn't the last we've seen of Uhura. R.I.P. to everyone that died. Let's not forget. Well, I already forgot them, so oh well. The other two characters, I love that they used practical effects here, and the puppetry. I thought that was great. Special effects were awesome. Beverly Crusher connection. I think that Beverly Crusher was, this is my headcanon, Beverly Crusher was rescued by Captain Uhura when she was captain of the Leon de Grange many years later, and that Uhura saved Beverly on Arvada 3 after Beverly was orphaned. And Uhura could relate to her because she lost her parents too. So I just have a little short trek in my head that they've met, and yeah, it's a reach, but look, guys, I'm doing my best here. I was going to say live long and prosper, but that last scene, I mean, please, live long and prosper till next week.
And that was previous guest host of Open Pike Night and every week caller, Michelle at OnTheRock81 on Twitter. Guys, we got red shirts. We finally got some red shirts, and
we did.
I think it's time we give them a little bit of discussion. So, Cam, what'd you think?
All I thought really was that Lieutenant Duke looked like a Star Trek fan who had won some sort of contest for like a small walk-on role. I'm sorry, that was just the impression I got from him. Also, it felt like there's a lot of deleted scenes. Like, it felt like we should have seen him burn himself. Like, that would have been a great tension-filled scene. Like, he reaches into some hole and suddenly we cut back to Spock and hear him scream and like fall out of the Jeffries tube, and then no, it's just a burn or something. That felt like there's some weird kind of.
Is that the first deleted scene that we've ever postulated that was actually something that might have happened? Because usually we use that to tell another joke.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Probably, yeah. Yeah, those were my thoughts on those characters, Chia and Duke.
Medical horror is effective on me, right? So, like, having them in the med bay and having a nurse go, here's what we're going to do, and just calm down. And I got to say, I really love how detached sometimes Jess Bush plays Nurse Chapel, right? Because you would need that quality as a medical professional. You need to be able to look at the hurtiest looking death rash you've ever seen in your life and go, oh, hello, what's that? Like, that was gross. But she was just like super interested in it, right? Because medically she needs to know what that is. But I was sort of like, okay, these characters, again, these characters are dead, right? Like, you knew as soon as we met them, we're like, these characters are totally dead. He's getting promoted, he's dead. We're learning about her, she's dead. Like,
they get names, they're dead.
Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, that's all there is to it. Like, I'm here for that. Like, that is a Star Trek thing. They do that all the time. They go, this is Ensign whomever. They really love to play the violin. And then 2 scenes later, that person gets blown out the side of the ship or something.
It's like violin bow through the eyeball.
Yeah, or they phase through the floor and they stop existing now.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, God.
They really should have actually got Sam Rockwell to play Duke, and then I would have just died at the Galaxy Quest.
that would have been worth it.
Oh, God, I hope that happens
It
sometime.
would have been worth it, I think. I'm here for red shirts. I'm glad that we haven't had like a whole series up to now of like every time we go somewhere somebody dies, because I think that would be like false stakes, right? Like, if there's somebody getting killed in every episode and we never know who it is, then whatever. But I think for them to go, no, we're going to kill like a smattering of people in this episode, and we're going to have that be like arguably because of a poor decision.
I mean, so far, have all the deaths been because of the Gorn in Strange New Worlds? Between Memento Mori and this episode, have there been any other crew member deaths? I mean, I'm not counting, whatever rookie, we're not going to call that a death. That was
Did the Serene Squall episode have anybody get killed by pirates? I don't think anybody even got killed by pirates.
It definitely implied that no one died.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
In the first episode, I don't think anybody died. The second episode, Sam Kirk died, but only temporarily.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And then,
they only have shown coffins twice, and it was both because of the Gorn.
Yeah.
well, episode 3, right, because episode 3, some people got infected, but I don't know that anybody died from that virus,
I don't think anybody
right?
died.
I think they killed themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's all Gorn.
Yeah, I think... I was thinking about that.
All the time.
I want to talk about the other guest star of this episode, though. Maybe my favorite part of this episode is Buckley.
Very well done.
Buckley was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is what I always talk about, how, like, it's so sad that we use so much CG because technology has come so far that we can do amazing things with puppets. And this is a great, I'm fine. The chest bursting was a little overly chest bursty, but that scene was done really well. Like I said, if you're going to steal, do it right. Yeah. And it was so good. His breathing, that was so good.
There's so many close-ups of hey, look what we can do with makeup and prosthetics.
Yeah.
We're going to show you super close. Yeah, the way his face moved and everything.
Well,
wow,
just the tension being built before the chest bursting, I think, was just so well done. And not even just with him and his breathing and stuff, but Spock seeing open vents and just kind of knowing that something is coming, and then it paced in with his breathing and discovering his gnarly rash or whatever. And I think that was just so well done. And the effects of Buckley were fantastic.
The facial features that they put on Buckley were so effective. The eyebrow work with him, and it was just oh, wow. They really made me feel for him. I knew, the whole time, as soon as he gets introduced, he's only there to die, right? But they still made it effective. And I agree with you, Cameron, 100%. The practical effects in the series have been top notch all the way through. I don't know if you know this, Meg, because you are not a huge Trekkie like the rest of us, which is why we brought you here. But if you remember back to episode 2, they met that other blue alien guy that was get off my comet, Mahani says no. That guy was 99% practical effects as well. They put air bladders under his makeup to make it look like his head was moving. It was really cool. So I agree with you 100%, Cameron. I'm really glad that we're getting, Star Trek has a history of just putting stuff on their face and calling it an alien. And they did do that here, but they did it effectively.
But a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's 3 feet tall.
All right, our friend Kelly wrote in with some comments. There's a lot of stuff we've talked about with the alien and Predator references. She had a couple of questions. In the scene in Pike's quarters at the beginning of the episode, Una signals to Pike that it's time to start the proceedings by tapping her fingers on her wrist like a wristwatch, and was really wondering would they still be using any wristwatches whatsoever in the future, considering how barely we use them now. And then also commented on the energy weapon that Spock is carrying when he goes to fight the Gorn. I'm pretty sure that was Buckley's weapon, right? And I bumped on that too. Yeah. I'm why did Spock choose? We know they have guns. Everybody's got guns in this episode.
He's a rogue.
I was it's interesting that Spock chose Buckley's gun as
he's choosing
his
anger
choice.
He's choosing violence.
Buckley dies and Spock searched the body. Sorry, my D&D reference. I'm sorry.
He's using Buckley to avenge whatever the other guy's, Duke, I think was his name.
I heard Duke. We started seeing the episode. I was oh, that's right. Bill Duke was in Predator. Oh, why did we get firing the minigun of energy weapons down the hallway like the scene in Predator?
Because Starfleet officers are not Jesse the Body Ventura is why.
But I mean, come on, Spock just yelling and unloading a weapon until it's empty. Would you not have watched that scene?
I would have put that on repeat. Yeah, the opening scene. I mean, the opening shot. That was an interesting food porn shot, right? Just coasting through all of Pike's food.
Yeah, and it was fun to see La'an just completely cracked her shell with the waffles.
I enjoyed that scene. That was good. Maybe Una saw a whole bunch of wristwatch commercials when Pike is forcing her to watch all these 80s sitcoms about families driving around in cars.
It has to have been. But I think a little piece of continuity there, because we know La'an said her strawberries are her comfort food thanks to Una, right?
Yep.
And she has strawberries on her plate with her waffle. She goes, try the waffle, and Una goes, try it with a strawberry.
That's immediately what I looked forward to as soon as she started eating. I'm are there strawberries there? Is this
yes,
these guys are good.
I love it. She's and it's and to me it is a ultra subtle reference to Deanna and her borderline sexist obsession with chocolate from TNG. What if La'an was a normal person who just liked strawberries? She doesn't have to be weird about it.
I have a couple other notes just from that opening scene. Pike, he for sure knows better than to beat a dead horse. I kind of wish he'd made a little sign of the cross after even just saying that. And then Spock doing the dishes is a very niche but intense subgenre of porn for a group of people, right? Like just
Me.
that's gonna okay.
Meg is the niche, yes.
I'm pretty sure I already brought it up.
You mentioned him in the apron, yeah.
I do think our next caller talks about that a little bit.
This was a really fun episode with great elements of horror and suspense. I love the obvious nods to Alien and Predator, the designs of the young Gorns. Very cool, a neat, kind of modern update, but reminiscent of the Gorn we knew in TOS. I love that Pike is the dad who saves you a plate of his world-famous breakfast just in case. Him telling Spock to do the dishes was fantastic. Ethan Peck reacted perfectly as sort of, what the hell? And aye, aye, Captain. Sam Kirk calling Spock an emotionless computer is prepping the way for the barbs that Spock is going to receive at the mouth of Dr. McCoy. Can you even imagine what Sam will tell his brother when he gets command of the Enterprise? Dude, that Spock is weird. People were dying in front of us. He thinks it's fascinating. He switched bodies with his fiance once. Every time I was on an away mission, we almost died. Yeah, good luck with that pointy-eared freak. I am surprised that Hammer is gone. Bruce Horak said that this was the plan all along when he signed on, and he also said it's not the end of his work in Star Trek. Ending the episode with Uhura looking at the comm station is a nice touch. Obviously, she's not going anywhere, and I think this episode solidifies that she's staying in Starfleet, and we'll get to see more of her character in this show. Really fun episode. Can't wait for the season finale.
That was frequent guest Josh at Josh Alder on Twitter. I think one of my favorite things, there are very subtle things about this episode that I noticed. One is that when Spock is washing the dishes, he's just far enough away that he kind of has to shout to be a part of the conversation. It was really just like, I'm here too, guys, hey, and I really enjoyed that.
Also logic. Don't forget logic.
Yeah, exactly. It was.
I also like that it's keeping up him saying the obvious thing where he's like, an unplanned emergency landing, and Mbenga has a little...
Yeah.
It just reminded me of like, there are no survivors from this decimated planet. Thanks, Spock.
Thank you.
We got it.
And
we
then,
saw get hit with a comment.
I literally don't care at what he can say whatever he wants. That guy. He can say and do whatever he wants. Does not matter.
And then with Uhura and like, oh, she's back on the bridge and looking at her station, like
I did like the proto McCoy mention there, and it actually, to continue the list of homages, it reminded me of another Star Trek actor in a non-Star Trek film, which would be Brent Spiner in Independence Day. This is really fascinating, or really exciting, and then the president goes, exciting? I don't think that's the word I'd use to describe this, right? It's the same conversation. But it's a conversation that would be had if you had a scientist like Spock in the room.
Well, Spock said it was impressive, and he was not wrong. It was impressive. It doesn't mean it was a good impression.
Right, yeah.
But it was there.
That felt a little forced from Sam.
And
Sam.
It felt too much like everyone's like, hey, look, this is the relationship. Haha, see how we're calling to it? And it made me really annoyed at Sam, if I'm being totally honest. Like, have you never met a Vulcan? Like,
well, and it's like, what do you mean that he's tougher than he looks?
Racist, maybe. No,
right. Well, because
well, that's what, like, we can bring him down a notch if we get the scene of him being tough later.
Yeah, like have him do something tough. Don't just tell me that he's tough, because right now he seems really not tough.
Yeah, like it seemed like they were setting something up between him and Spock, and then nothing happens except him being like, "Whoa, it was me."
I'd be okay if he were to get like slashed by a Gorn, but then survive it, right?
Yeah, or like run in at the end and pin the Gorn down under the freezing if it looked like it was about to get away from that. Like, all of a sudden the hero comes out of nowhere and helps.
Oh, but his mustache takes a bunch of damage and falls off, and that would be tragic. That would add to the tragedy of the whole episode with losing Hammer and La'an if the mustache went too, I think.
I feel like I'm going to be really in the minority in this, where I kind of wish that Uhura had decided to leave and come back later. Not because anything against Celia Rose Gooding. I think she's amazing, and I actually really like the character Uhura. But we talked earlier about how so many of the characters on this show are characters that we know there's no stakes for them. We know they're gonna live and they're gonna be fine. We know their futures for a lot of them. what's interesting is more of the journey. And I'm not even saying Celia Rose not be in the show or anything anymore. But if she went and came back as her own choice and her own volition, and she wasn't trying to find her way, like she had found her way back. And that would also open up other characters who are original characters not taken from other parts of Star Trek, and let us get invested in them. Let us worry about their fates.
It would have been the more interesting choice. It would have been what we weren't expecting, because this whole episode, because of what we know about her, we were like, okay, yep, she's going to choose to stay. She's going to choose to stay. So at the end, like, she's like, oh, pokes her head in. Oh, yeah, I'm leaving too with Lon. So yeah.
Like I feel really bad for this young orphan girl, so I'm going to take I'm going to take La'an up on this offer to take her to her family. And just a cool little note, this is not them actually like connecting the characters, but the actress who plays Oriana is the real life sister of the actor who played the first servant, which I thought was
that's cool,
fun and tragic, and wow, Star Trek.
It'd be really funny if they were like, oh, they're siblings in real life in the show too. Like,
right?
That's how they connect everything back together.
That would be.
Oh, we found your last remaining family member. But we got some news.
Things are bad. Or if La'an stayed and her took the orphan girl, I think that would have been, honestly, for me, more interesting. I want to see more of La'an moving past her stuff with the Gorn. I don't want, it's been good and fun, I guess, watching her like with this rage and stuff, especially in this episode, but I want there to be more to her. I don't want this to be the one note that we see. I want to watch her grow, and with us knowing what happens with Uhura, I would be less bummed, I guess, to see her go off and do a different kind of adventure while we get to know this original character better and watch them grow.
Yeah, it was interesting. Josh brought up that, apparently it was always the plan to kill him, or I am kind of surprised about that. It did feel sudden to me. And also interesting that his time with Star Trek is not over. Yeah. So what does that mean to Jesse's earlier point?
He's got a twin brother.
Hemmer.
Named Hemmer. They're both named Hemmer.
Just call me Hemmer. That's what we all go by.
Easier.
Hemmer and Bemmer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it would be really cool if Bruce Horak played, like the main alien from several different episodes. Like every time they meet a new alien, it's played by Bruce Horak, right? Like I'd be fine with that.
Or he just comes on with no makeup.
Very Jeffrey Combs situation.
Exactly.
I'd be super down for that. I think anymore when you get to be on a Star Trek show, I think there is an understanding that like, hey, if this works out, like if it works out with everybody involved, you could have work for life, like as an actor. And I think that is understood.
All right, we have one last guest on stage tonight with Open Pike.
Hi, this is Peter, and here are my thoughts about Episode 9, All Those Who Wander. While I'm not a fan of the horror genre, I did enjoy watching Trek's take on a horror story. Some references I noticed included a homage to the famous chestburster scene from Alien. La'an and Oriana reminded me of Ripley and Newt. Sam Kirk started to panic, similar to Private Hudson in Aliens. Also, we have an ice environment, which reminded me of John Carpenter's The Thing, and the Gorn's heat vision reminded me of The Predator. I enjoyed the cinematography on the episode. The use of flickering lights, shadows, smoke, camera zooms, sound effects, and music all contributed to creating an eerie and tense atmosphere. I felt this was a transition episode between the first phase of Strange New Worlds and what comes next. I was surprised and sad to see Hemmer's sacrifice. He was my favorite of the new characters, and I wanted to see more of him. La'an taking a leave of absence, Uhura deciding to stay on the Enterprise and perhaps be assigned to communications as Ensign Uhura, and Spock dealing with his emotions, specifically his anger, all seem to set up the next series of stories, which will lead into Season 2. One more week to go. Thanks, and live long and prosper.
All right, that was our friend Peter at Peter Trek 1, host of My Star Trek Life on Spotify. So yeah, penultimate episode, but they are definitely setting up the next season and next set of stories.
I felt very uneven. I don't know. The ending struck me as odd. Like it did feel almost like a series finale.
It sure did. Yeah.
We're getting rid of two of our non-legacy characters. We're firmly affixing one of our legacy characters into where she's going to go. Like it almost felt like it should have been the finale of the season, and them not knowing if they're going to get a second season. So they were kind of putting the pieces in place. I'm very curious about what we're going to get with the next episode for the finale.
As a huge emotional pushover fanboy of Star Trek, I am doing my best to wait until the first season is complete to judge the first season as a whole. That having been said, I'm having a ton of fun. I'm really enjoying myself. I think that this is arguably the best first season of a Trek show, and I don't think that's a new sentiment. But I do feel like we should give this show the benefit of the doubt. I think they have shown repeatedly that they know what they're doing with tone and with character and with fun, right, in general, that I'm really excited for next week, and I'm really excited to see where they go next. And I'm not worried at all about them going, we've already set ourselves some constrictions for next week with La'an being out of the picture and Hemmer not being here. And like, they're going to tell us a huge story next week. It has to be, right? Because they're going, we need all of this development out of the way, and we're going to focus on whatever this thing is. Thank you for calling in again, Peter. I know you have called in almost every week. I think maybe every week this season. And I have to reiterate how cool it is for Cameron and John and I to feel the support of the community in the way that we do for the show, because like Cameron said, they cover a 30-year-old Star Trek show, and they're always Trekkies, right? And the shows that I cover are famously one season long, so they don't have huge fan bases. So it's like, to be steeped in community love or even just discussion of a thing is a new podcasting experience for me. So I'm glad to have that. And I've been having a blast. I have a lot of faith in the creative team for Strange New Worlds. I'm very excited for next week.
Pike wakes up and it was all a dream.
Yeah.
Cameron would be so mad.
Oh, you have no idea. That's my least favorite trope. The last two callers definitely mentioned the horror elements. I do want to talk about that a little bit. It wasn't until my second watch that I noticed there's just a straight up severed head on screen at one point.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, that's there. I think they did a pretty good job with a lot of the horror elements. Like, I love that 90% of the shots inside the ship are Dutch angle, and part of that is to like show that it's askew. But part of it is also just to embed you in that horror element. That was done great. I bumped a little bit. So, of course, splitting up is a bit of a trope. They know almost immediately, as soon as they listen to the recording, that there could be Gorn on ship. And immediately they're like, well, let's all split up into different rooms. I'm like, would you though? Or maybe two groups, like one to fix the ship and one to look for survivors. But beyond that, no. But again, it's a trope. But the way they do it, it's not even like you two go here, you two go here. These are things we have to get done. It's like Spock is just wandering from Jeffrey's tubes to Med Bay. Like, they're just crisscrossing the place, knowing that there's Gorn out there. What is happening? And I think that also lent to me being very confused about the geography of it and who was where and who was with who and what is that, like the whole plan at the end. I was just confused by. Spock is like, yeah, you and me, Himber, we're going to be in here. And then the next scene, Spock's off somewhere else doing something, and it's La'an who's running in there. And I was not a huge fan of the way the plan played out. It was a lot of screaming at the Gorn and then running away.
I loved
those were my thoughts on that.
I loved the moment of La'an screaming at the Gorn and then the Gorn screaming back. Like, that's a total alien or predator moment, right? Like, you are one ugly, like, just so good. I loved that moment, honestly.
There's a lot of really good moments scattered throughout all this. I want to be clear, and I think generally it was done well, but I mean, these are pretty nitpicky things and things you've got to pay attention to when you're telling a horror thriller in a spaceship.
Meg, what did you think about the threads they started to weave from here going forward?
I'm excited. I'm interested in seeing what's going on, and I've said about a million times, I'm not near as familiar with the futures of these characters as you guys are, and a lot of other people who watch Star Trek are. So I'm interested to see what's going on. I think even knowing, and I talked about this a little bit with Uhura and wanting her to go away, not really, but knowing a destination doesn't make the journey less interesting. I would really like to see, like I said, more original characters. I want to see more characters that I can get invested in and be scared for, if I'm being totally honest. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's going on. I will find people to ship on anything, and so, like, I was joking with Jesse, like, can I just ship the whole crew with each other? And also, I forgot to mention how much I love Daddy Pike. And I feel like I love Daddy Pike in maybe a different way than it was intended from that caller's comment. Zaddy Pike. I really want to see Spock get more into his emotions and become more comfortable with his human side and stuff like that. We saw him fighting with his human side a few episodes back, and I got to say, yowza, Ethan Peck is attractive with pointy ears and weird eyebrows and normal eyebrows too. But I'm really enjoying watching his relationship with Chapel.
Yeah.
And I want to watch that grow, regardless if it's going to be something romantic, but their kiss was super hot.
Equally as hot was the scene here at the end with them where like you could tell she wanted that kiss.
I wanted that kiss.
She was leaning
He's like,
in.
leave me
Oh my
alone.
God.
And I was like, I wanted him to like just because he's not control in his emotions and he's acting illogically. I wanted to see that manifest as more than just rage or just not knowing. And I think everyone has been there as human beings, not knowing what to do with your feelings and them coming out in such an unexpected way. And I think that would have been a really unexpected way.
Yeah.
And it would have given him more conflict with his relationship with T'Pring because their previous kiss and that whole thing was under duress and it was to save. And she was so obnoxiously I'm not a fan of T'Pring. I'm so sorry. I'm just not a big fan of her because she's getting in the way of what I want, which is bisexual Spock with Chapel.
Yeah, in an alien-spaced episode, the tension between them in that 2 seconds was the meatiest tension of the episode.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, I love watching for character stuff, and that is something that, and I wish they would have kissed because I feel like that's something where Spock, they don't have the excuse of trying to save anyone's lives or being under duress with doing that. And he's dealing with rage. Please give him some other more complex emotions that he's having to kind of fight and sort through. And also, I'm just horny. No. I'm just thirsty.
You will make this the horniest episode of Star Trek.
I want to point out, firstly, that Meg said, you guys gave me the least horny episode, and here she is.
Finding the 2 seconds
the one
in
moment,
the show.
yeah. But secondarily, Meg also came into this as a Star Trek newbie. And she is now talking very animated with her hands. She's going, give me more Spock. Let me have Chapel. Like, Meg, I think you might be a Trekkie now. Like, you don't have to accept that label, but you care about these characters, Meg. And I love that about you,
I never said I didn't care about them. Like, so the reason I started watching this because Jesse was like, Megan, you should watch the show and then you can come on Open Pike Night. And I was like, okay, cool. Anything so I can hear myself talk. As much as I love Jesse, if I don't enjoy something and if I'm not feeling like I can be invested in the characters, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to spend. I have 2 kids and a lot and renovations going on and huge vacations coming on. I don't have a lot of time to be able to invest in something that I'm not enjoying and don't care about. I think I've made it very clear throughout this episode. My bummer about Hemmer dying is that I didn't get to be as invested in him as I wanted to be when he died.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to indicate that, like, Meg, you pretended not to be. What I'm trying to illustrate is, like, look, I asked Meg a couple of weeks ago, hey, will you come be on our Star Trek podcast? And she went,
I canceled.
Because I love you, I will watch an episode and see, and now she's watched the entire series and she's looking forward to the end of it. So it's like, give it if you're out there and for whatever reason, I'm sure there's not a lot of people listening to this podcast that are like, I don't want to watch the show, right? But if you are listening to this podcast and there's somebody in your life that's like, no, I'm good on the Star Trek, maybe explain to them like, hey, this is the kind of show that's accessible in like a week flat if you have the time or the interest to try it out, right? Like you don't have to get
day. I mean,
you don't have to watch all 800 episodes of Star Trek. You can just watch these 10 episodes of one series, 9 right now, but eventually 10. And I think that is hugely important and wonderfully beautiful because if there's one thing Trekkies want, it's more Trekkies.
More Trekkies.
So, yeah.
to Meg's point, our caller Kelly, who writes in, she doesn't have a microphone to be able to use. I forgot one moment she said that the Chapel Spock, she was never really in the Chapel Spock camp during the original series, but that Strange New World, she's really getting more and more invested in that relationship, and love the scene where Chapel comforted and I think confronted Spock after the memorial service.
Mhm.
And that was from Kelly at Antipodal on Twitter. I was really interested that in the plan, in the entire hunt for the Gorn, Pike was just sitting in the bridge listening to the comms. Like Pike wasn't actually, and I'm not criticizing. I just like that he was there directing. He wasn't walking the halls hunting. He wasn't part of the trap. He was just coordinating and being the captain.
He used the term quarterbacking to
absolutely.
to fit with his whole like anachronistic 1900s knowledge.
He just watches Super Bowls.
He's like, we'll quarterback the operation from here. Like, it
was fantastic to see that.
I like that point. Point, John, that he wasn't going because I'm the man and I'm the captain, I have to be in the hallway, right? Like he's going, whatever I can do to help best, that's what I'll do. That's a really good point, John.
I forgot to mention too, for something I'm looking forward to. I know that we've talked a lot about like how episodic it is and how that's nice. I would like to see a little bit more serialization. Not a ton, not so one where like you can't miss a single episode or you'll be completely lost or anything like that. Lost. Speaking of. But I'm always a fan. I like episodics or monsters of the week or whatever with an overarching mythos that's going on top of it, where if you do miss something, an episode, it's not like you can't enjoy the episode, but you want to see more. So I'd like it a little bit more serialized. But I think so much of that too is because I watch shows so much for characters, and I think those overarching storylines are where you kind of get the meat of character development.
Well, I think season 1 is setting a lot of that up. I think we were definitely going to see Captain Angel and Sybok again. I think we're definitely going to deal with Una's genetic history again. I think this has just been a lot of setting up of those seeds that are going to pay off later on.
Also, I very much appreciate that I haven't seen a whole lot of damsel in distress issues kind of within. I like the equality is not the word I'm really looking for. But there's no like, get behind me, you're a woman. Like you're talking about with Pike not being like, I'm the man, I know everything.
And specifically in this episode, they hear the word Gorn, and Pike goes, La'an, you're up. What do we do?
Well, yeah, to Marcy's point, I love they allow the security chief to run security. For
that's
sure.
true.
To the point of what comes next, I do want to actually put word out there. Open Pike Night is going to continue beyond the finale of season 1 of Strange New Worlds. We're not just going to disappear for most of a year and only come back for season 2. We will have bonus episodes, extra content. We're working on developing a lot of stuff. It won't be weekly releases, but we're shooting for bi-weekly podcast releases, and Jesse's not going anywhere on Twitter as far as I know. There will be plenty of Open Pike activity online, and we will still be putting out calls to hear from the audience at large, especially to those of you in Europe who are now catching up on Strange New Worlds and lots of other new Trek, I'm guessing.
You know, only just because we didn't get to talk about Ortegas enough this episode, I want to point out that it was a shot of her when Uhura's voiceover was talking about the amazingly talented people she got to work with. We lingered on Ortegas.
Absolutely.
So, I agree with that.
Yep.
Agree with that editing.
I would just say, I think my last note on this is the pacing of this episode I really like, and I think that it really effectively mirrors sort of like the discomfort that the crew would be in, where they're like, okay, we have to make a new decision now. Okay, there's a dangerous thing, and we have to make another new decision. Oh, here's an unknown variable. Let's make a decision about that. Like, it felt a little frantic pacing-wise, and I really appreciated that. I think that was probably on purpose.
Well, thank you to all of our guests on the Open Pike Night Stage. We would not be the podcast we are without you, and we love our growing audience. It's time to rate this episode. We rank our episodes each week based on the rest of the episodes from the season. So, Cam, how would you rank your episode lineup of season 1 so far?
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is an episode that started really strong for me. I really love the first 15, 20 minutes. I was like, is this going to be my new favorite episode? And then for the reasons I talked about, it kind of got hit or miss in the middle. And then by the end, not bad, but I was just like, it just fell off for me. So I'm going to say that it was better than Body Swap Comedy is Hard and Una is suddenly an alien species that we've never heard of. But not quite as good as, oh my god, Dr. Aspen is actually Captain Angel. So my ranking is 8, 4, 6, 1, 2, 7, number 9 right here, then 3 and 5.
Meg, what do you think?
I enjoyed it a lot. I think I agree with a lot of what Cam is saying as the emotional payoff with Hemmer not being quite enough for me. So I put this at 5 for me. I don't know if you guys want to hear other rankings of mine, but it was very hastily done, and I'd have no justifications for most of them.
Nope, go for it.
What's your top 3?
Yeah, top 3.
Top 3. So my top 3 are 2, 2, 7, and 4. I think those are 3 of my favorites. I mean, I'll go through the whole thing. So I have 2, 7, 4, 1, 9, 8, 3, 6, 5.
All right.
I feel like I'm the only one who seems to have really liked the Elysian Kingdom, but I'm so glad to hear Cam.
Oh, we all loved it, yeah. But that was my favorite.
It's the lowest rated one.
Yeah.
On IMDb, and it bums me out.
I think that is because of the type of people who are on IMDb. I was reading some of the reviews for that. I'm like, oh, this is the racist Trekkie trolls. Okay, got it. Yep. This is
Probably the same thing for episode 7, I would imagine. A lot of hate for Dr. Angel, or for Captain Angel rather. But I'm actually glad to hear that, Meg, and I think Children of the Comet is a common favorite from our listeners. So mine is gonna be a little bit different because this episode, as I said, I loved it a lot, and I really almost feel like it's Memento Mori Part 2 or Memento Mori is All Those Who Wonder Part 1. And Memento Mori is on record as my favorite episode, so this jumped pretty high for me. But Children of the Comet is still really up there just because it was so much fun. So I go Memento Mori, Children of the Comet, this episode, then Elysian Kingdom, then 6, 7, 5, 3, 1. I think 1 is going to stay at the bottom for me just because I'm so happy every week with what comes out. It's not an indicator that I didn't like 1. It's just that I love every episode as it comes out, and it's the experience of having to put them in order is gonna necessitate one of them be at the back. But I've loved every episode, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt with I have liked them all, but Spock Amok was one that just, I think you're right, body swapping comedy is hard. And I was listening to you guys talk about it actually yesterday, and I just agree that they missed such a huge opportunity with La'an and Una.
All right. This one came in pretty high end of the middle of the road for me. So I would say 4, 8, 6. This episode comes in 4th place for me, followed by 2, 5, 1, 3, and 7 still in the last. So part of why I like this episode as much as I do, for it kind of being a messy episode, is that I love all the movies that it homages, and I don't mind that it homages them. And I do feel like there was a tiny, tiny bit of Event Horizon reference in there. I'm not quite sure where, but I kept feeling it. And so I'm like, okay, anything where we can actually get some Event Horizon meets Star Trek, I'll take.
That's what you were feeling, because Event Horizon feeling is that anything could go wrong at any time in a horrible way. So that's what you were feeling. That was the reference. Yeah,
exactly.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another Open Pike Night. Jesse, now that we are 90% of the way through season 1 of Strange New Worlds and Open Pike Night, how can our listeners get on stage and share their thoughts, feelings, or jokes about Strange New Worlds?
The easiest way to do that is to go to Twitter and look up a handle called @OpenPike. I am in charge of that. You will see funny memes, difficult questions, hilarious polls, etc. But you will also see a button at the top of that profile that says Start Reading, and that will get you signed up for the Open Pike Night Crew Manifest, which is a weekly free newsletter reminder that shows up in your email inbox. Be sure to check your spam or junk mail folders, because I assure you our newsletter is neither of those things. But it does include that reminder to record your clip and send it in to us, as well as a link directly to our mailbox to do so. Now, of course, if you wanted to listen to this on some other sort of audio platform, you can also go to YouTube now and listen to Open Pike Night there. If you prefer to have just something on in the background and YouTube is the way you do that, why not have it be Open Pike Night? So go to YouTube and look up Open Pike Night. You will see full episodes as well as our fun little animated clips.
And Meg, how can people find more of you?
You can find my podcast, Bedwetter Behead, that I have with my best friend Carla, where we play Fuck, Marry, Kill with fictional characters. On Twitter at bedwedbeheadpod. You can find us on Instagram at bed.wed.behead.pod. You can find us on other blue social media by searching for Bedwetter Behead. My personal Twitter, if you want to see my random, ridiculous, and right now kind of angry and sad tweets about the state of the world, you can find me on Twitter at Wisconsinac, which is WISCONSENNACH, which is an Outlander reference.
Cam, where can people find more of you?
At GreenShirt87 is where I spend most of my time on Twitter, and Twitter is where I spend most of my social media time. You can also find us on Facebook.com/GreenShirtPodcast if you are more of a Facebook listener. And our podcast, Green Shirt, A Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation, can be found on whichever podcatcher you are listening to this on. Please do.
And Jesse, where can people find you?
If for whatever reason you need more of me in your life, you can go to whatever app you are using to listen to this podcast and search for Sudden But Inevitable. Of course, Sudden But Inevitable is the single season television show rewatch podcast that turns longtime friends into first-time fans. Right now, I'm bringing my friends Josh and Ricky through the anime Death Note, 2 episodes at a time. They are both not anime fans, so that's sort of the basis of my show. So go check us out. You can also follow that show on Twitter at Sudden But. I am not quite as active there currently as I am on the Open Pike channel, but I will be, I'm sure, once our season comes to a very sad end.
And you can find me on Twitter at John T. Bolds. I recently guested on the Duras Sisters podcast for their Death Fakeout series, discussing a couple episodes of Deep Space Nine. So that should be dropping about the same time this episode drops if you want to hear a little more of me talk about people who died, or did they, on Deep Space Nine. It's been a long night, and the Open Pike Night crew needs to clean up some of these bloodstains. And we have a few audience members who aren't looking too good. We'll find out where those pickled eggs at the bar came from. So please run, don't walk to the exits, and be sure to tip your servers. You can go anywhere you want, but you can't stay here.